Hey everybody, what's up? My name's Mackenzie.
And I'm Jonathan.
We are husband and wife, and we'd like to welcome you to TerreDice.
And today we're taking a look at the third and final expansion to Tapestry, and that is Fantasies and Futures.
So in Tapestry, you are building up your civilization and you are creating its history. And in this final expansion, we're taking all of the stuff leading up to this, and we are sprinkling a little bit of pixie dust on this and adding some magic. So if that sounds like something you might want to play, then just keep watching.
In Fantasies and Futures, we're going to be delving into the magical world. So there's rifts open up everywhere. Now we've got werewolves and merfolk, and you've got genies and goblins and the kraken and zombies. All these kind of fun, different supernatural things. So we had aliens before. That was kind of like our peek into this world. And I was like, oh, we're going to get a whole lot more with this expansion. So we are focused in this expansion on civilization mats. So brand new civilizations. That's going to be also on capital city mats. So a couple new puzzles for how you place your buildings, and a ton of new tapestry cards and tech cards. So as far as new rules, there's basically two new rules that get introduced in this expansion. That's going to be the charms, which are these little flags that are on the tapestry cards that come in the expansion that basically say if there's a tapestry card to the left or right of me, when that gets played, it's going to activate that symbol. And so that's going to generally give you new resources, move you up the track. It's basically going to extend your game time. And it's really important kind of the order in which you play tapestry cards sort of for the first time, which is kind of cool. The second thing that it's going to add is this fifth income turn sort of boost. So there was a fifth income turn that was basically you get points at the end of the game, nothing super special. It's just when you do your end game scoring. And they've beefed that back up to do a lot more. So you might be setting aside landmarks or buildings or cards that you get to use all during that fifth income turn that's sort of like cached for later. So we'll get to that as we kind of talk more about some of the specific cards, but I think that's one of the most interesting things about this expansion. Awesome, so one of the things that we got was brand new civilization mats. This is usually like one of the most fun parts, I think, because it's your unique sort of like North Star.
Your
it's
character.
The thing you're shooting towards. Yeah, so one of the ones that I thought was really fun was the Illuminati. So they control the dice because they control all the strings. So essentially, the first time you use the dice, they're going to gain the benefits of all those dice as well. Which basically, it's one of the nice simple ones. I love when there's always one that, you know, you can pick up that was your first game.
I will call myself out. I played this one and I thoroughly enjoyed it because I'm not the best tapestry player. I would come in second in that game, I think.
Yeah, you did.
But I played the Illuminati and I loved it because it was very straightforward. You got that. You didn't have to think that much for that one.
Now, generally, these are pretty complex civilizations.
That was the only one that really wasn't that complex.
Yeah, like there's the elder ones, which essentially they're all about like having a longer game. Makes sense because they like stick around for longer because they're old. But essentially, they're getting extra resources on those income turns. They also are getting tons of extra tapestry cards, so they're gonna have a lot more choices with their wisdom of what they play next. I think what was cool about that was there's also this fifth income turn, which usually like that's when the game ends, is when you do that final scoring, but you also like get resources. So what they get to do is they can keep taking advance turns after their fifth income turn. They can just keep taking turns until they can't advance anymore. So they get basically a whole extra era, which I thought was kind of cool. Yeah, essentially they get that whole extra era at the end. The other one that I thought was really cool was the Werefolk. This one was just thematically really cool. So essentially on its income turn, you're going to flip a space token, like a die, and it's either going to land with the planet up or it's going to land with just the stars up, the back side of the thing. If the planet side is up, I'm thinking like the moon coming out because they're werewolves. They're going to regress into their feral nature. You're going to go backwards on a track and get some points, and then you're going to score the thing that's on the space tile. So you're going to get to explore that and get that benefit.
I really like that they use the space tile because I feel like in the original Tapestry, one of my complaints was
they don't get used to it.
It's just this random thing that sometimes gets used, sometimes gets not. But I feel like in this one, they try to pull back those original elements, the things they already had, which I appreciate that making other things more beefy than they were used.
Very much so, yeah. And so if you do happen to flip it, it lands on the star side where you don't get that benefit. You actually your civilized nature dominates, so you get to go up on a track of your choice and gain the benefit. So they found a really cool way to use those tracks. Lots of other really fun ones. I played the Wee Folk, one of my games, which essentially you're like these little people who live in people's towns, and so I would put my cubes in their town and I'd score points for their rows and columns of buildings. So really kind of just fun stuff going on there.
So that was the civilizations. Next, I want to talk about the new capital city maps. So they are all magic themed. I think one of the my favorite ones that I played was the Netherworld one. I think
that's the best
technically it is. I think it's the best theming wise and with the best. It puzzled. It's like you're trying to get the imp. Oh, you're trying to cover up the spaces to get to the castle or the
like
city center.
To
defeat them, and then once you do that, you get 2 additional resources. And so I thought that was an interesting component, and it made for a fun little game in between it. But you had some thoughts about the rest of them.
I guess there's nothing particularly wrong about the capital city maps. It felt like more of if you've played the ones from Arts and Architecture, I thought those were excellent. The cavern where you're building downwards, the mesa where you can't expand outside the map.
The clouds you love.
Oh gosh, the clouds, because you can move your income buildings around if the cloud isn't finished yet on your income turns. So many interesting puzzles. And these ones, yes, they had to stick with every capital city map gives you resources. That's just pretty much what it does. But I didn't feel that there was anything particularly challenging about them. And I felt like everything else in this expansion was leaning towards making the game more challenging. And this just felt like I'm just kind of putting stuff down. There's a city in the bottle one, which I thought was super cute because you just put your little mini income buildings on it and that's it. But that means there's no puzzle because they only take up 1 space. So you're just going to fill the 3-pointers and then the 4-pointers. So it just the puzzles didn't interest me as much. It was just kind of
I think that's a really fair point because I feel like like what you're saying, so much of this game makes it more Tapestry, more harder, more puzzles, more to think about. And this one, I feel like they lessened that and they simplified this in a way. So that's our thoughts on the cities.
Cool. Tapestry cards. So we got a deck that is almost as 3/4 as big as the main deck. So you're going to fill in pretty well with new cards from this. Definitely the most of any expansion. All the Tapestry cards in this new expansion have these charm benefits. So it's this thing on the left or the right side or both that's going to score you points when you place a Tapestry card to the right or the left of this card. Now, what is crazy about these Tapestry cards, I feel like the decisions on these cards are way harder than any previous game. First of all, the charm bonuses when you play them matters a lot now, but also just the rules, the things that you get on the cards are a lot different. So there is this 5th income turn mat where you basically store things off to the side at the end of the game. One of the cards that was my favorite is this zombie army card, which essentially you kill 3 of your outposts on the board, you set them aside. And at the end of the game, when you do your final income turn, you get to reconquer with those 3 outposts and just go on a apocalypse army. And you score a bunch of points at the end, but also it's just super fun because you just totally change which territories you control and what the state of the game is at the end.
Yes.
But you're giving up those temporary points for the how many things you control at the end of each thing what you're scoring. I don't know. It's just really kind of interesting decisions.
I think the creativity of this expansion really shines in these Tapestry cards.
For sure.
It looks really cool.
You remember the doppelgangers card? This is one of the really cool ones. Basically, you if you play this card as your Tapestry card, you get to place one of your advancement markers at the same space as any other player on that track, which means you could be at 0 on exploration and all of a sudden be I'm on 6 on exploration, and then that is now your main track. So you could basically do a whole track shift halfway through the game.
That's really cool. Yeah, I thought these were super creative and different. I really enjoyed it. One thing that's one criticism I have with it is a lot of them require or give you charms or require charms, and you don't see, it's really hard to actually get them or to use them. You would be saving up for them a lot, but then they would ever actually come up because they're mixed in so deep into the other deck.
Yeah, if you include all 3 or all the expansion decks and you mix all those Tapestry cards in, you're not gonna hit these often enough that when they're in your hand, they're even the one that you want to play at that time.
Right.
So I guess when I saw this deck, I was so excited. I was oh, I'm gonna use tons of this. And then when you in reality play, you're probably only gonna put 1 or 2 Tapestry cards from this expansion on your player mat.
Yeah, I wanted to play into it because it was like the new thing, but it didn't benefit me like I wanted it to.
Yeah, it's very like niche cases, but then you like score big when you do it.
Yeah.
Which I think is exactly
Which
what
is
this
fair.
needed to
That's
be.
what expansions do.
You don't want to make the previous things obsolete, which I think this did a good job of not doing that. Yeah, a couple of these cool like tapestry cards that stood out to me. There's some that are letting you use space tiles again, which it's just great to see the space tiles coming out more often. There's also several that let you roll dice and get benefits based on those. So they created a couple more random tapestry cards that give you pretty good benefits that lean into those things if you roll the right things. I did like, this was a really cute theming one. I liked the Ghost Towns card. So essentially, for every building on your income mat that's still there, so like it's not populated, it's not in your city, you'll score points at the end of the game.
That was
which I thought, oh, that's cute. It's like the buildings aren't filled yet.
It's the opposite.
And then the other one that I loved was High Council. So this is a card that you play that when you play it, other players can show you response cards that they have, like the trap cards that they would use to topple you and things like that. And if they do, they get resources. So you're like, if you show me your response cards, you'll get resources. Which I just thought was kind of cool. And then you got things like the Kraken, who's one of your response cards. Interesting thing about this, they're traps, but just better. So I feel like the original, like, the trap card that was in there, you kind of just need to like get rid of those and use these instead because they're just stronger versions of the same card.
Could you just discard them?
Yeah. It's like I just don't see the reason for keeping those since these are like trap, but also you gain the charm bonus if you play it, which just feels stronger. So again, all the same gorgeous art. Like these cards are so pretty.
It's beautiful. The fact that this is all done by one artist, like all the art is done by Andrew Bosley. I'm pretty positive for all of the expansions plus the base game, and it is stunning. It's literally a work of art because like to put like that much effort into each card, like nothing feels like less than the next. That's one of my favorite parts about Tapestry and why I will play it is because it is just gorgeous to look at. Like everything just feels like you could blow it up and it would be a beautiful picture on a wall. It's really, really nice.
Really helps with the world building and storytelling too.
It's like a tapestry. Man, I'm full of puns today.
Tech cards, yeah, we're pretty late on tech cards. They all have this giant box at the bottom of them,
which
though.
Looks really overwhelming.
The first time I played this, I was like, man, all these cards are super wordy. There's so much text. And then I realized they all say the same thing. It's just a new rule. So it's the same as the arts and architecture you could put the landmark on the tech card to upgrade it and do the thing. These basically say you can only upgrade to the top level if you have dabbled in the mystical arts and have a charm somewhere on your tapestry, or if it's at the 5th income turn at the end of the game. So what I like about that, they add in a way to be like, okay, this can get upgraded at the end of the game if you never happen to get a charm card. But if you happen to be doing the magical things, you can do this in the middle. And they're just really fun thematic things like mind control and super speed and golem minions and just kind of really fun ones. But I really like the way these are used. They also are the first time that I've seen single-use cards. So if you played like the recyclers or like the different cards that let you activate things, these get flipped over when they get used because they're so strong, a couple of them. So I did kind of appreciate they came up with a couple fun new little things in there just to kind of make it different.
So those are the game elements that are included in this expansion. But another thing that is included in this expansion is this complete comprehensive rule book.
I needed this so badly.
All of the expansions plus the base game all in this. And this is amazing because the original is ginormous. It's only but it is like it's like you're like and next page and turning it and like this is it. Like they've been able to design it that it's all laid out so cleanly. I know Jonathan was like, I've read through this and Jonathan and I were looking through this.
FAQ and rebalances too.
And it is just like the icon references. It is very straightforward, very clear. It's one of the prettiest rule books I've ever seen. Pretty as in like, if I need to find something out, I can find it. And it is very straightforward in how to play. And I love, there's a frequently asked questions page. I love it when they do that. And the civilization adjustments are right on the back, so you don't have to go online to read about that. They're included right here, which is really helpful.
Yeah. They also did a good job with basically anywhere that there's an arts and architecture or fantasies and futures or Plains and Ploys rule. they basically put the little icon for it so that you could, find those or ignore those.
Yes.
Which I thought was helpful.
Yeah, so I'm really happy that they updated this rule book and did it in such a nice, neat, clean package. And
Yes.
another thing that's fascinating about this game is kind of something we've been leading up to. So you may have noticed we have not said there's any minis in this game, which a lot of the time, all the time with these expansions in the base game, there are these miniature models. So you would say
like sculptures.
Sculptures that are included that are like the different buildings that you collect and stuff like that. In this game, there is none of that. So essentially, everything in the game is flat. So we have the flat maps. Like everything is flat. The cards. So what they decided to do, which I think is genius, this is the box. Like flat. Like this is it.
Blew my mind.
It's like when we got it, I thought it maybe like that it was a prototype, but it's like this is it. And I think it's a great idea because if you don't if everything you need for the game can fit flatly in this saves on cardboard, this saves on like room, which like as New Yorkers we really appreciate. And I just think Stonemaier is really cool to like take a chance doing something like this, because I think if they do well at it and it's like really successful, I think this could be like more expansions should come in this, because if a lot of the times we will end up putting a game into the base box and we will get rid of that expansion box. So if you're going to do that, then why wouldn't you make the expansions in these envelopes?
It's a really interesting play though, because it's so much of the value you feel when you pick it up at the store is like you pick up this heavy box, it's got the nice 2mm gray board, and like I'm being a nerd with these design things, but like
we're in the middle of prepping files for our game. But so I just find it really interesting to see how people react to this, and from like a sales perspective, how they do, because like even though you are getting the same worth, like the same value essentially of the contents inside, what do the people think of like not getting a box? Let me know down below. I would be really curious. Like, do you feel like, do you get the same worth when you get something like this with the added benefits that come with getting this?
I think about the amount of fuel that is used for those freight ships to like freight these things over to the US, and like how much is saved because it takes up so much less space. And it's pretty cool to think about the environmental effects too.
Yes, and essentially also if you were just going to put the game into the box, and then then you have an empty play box, then an empty expansion box. So I would love to discuss this down below, but very interesting to Stonemaier. I love that they're taking new chances and being experimental and stepping outside the box, if you would. I literally just thought that's hilarious. So mostly really good thoughts on this new expansion. Some critiques on the city mats, and then you had a couple other thoughts. You want to expand more on that?
Yeah, the fifth income thing.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So basically, like, it's just kind of weird. So you set things off to the side for this like fifth income turn that happens at the end of the game, and you get to like then place them. It's also some of the boards are about like removing income buildings, but they don't actually give you benefits. Stuff like that. Now the fifth income thing, they made this like card that is like half a card, and then it says like put it on the right of your player mat and then tuck your other mat. It's the weirdest thing ever. First of all, if they have ever play tested this game on like a normal kitchen table, it's already tight on space when you have 3 people. So you're already putting your boards in weird places. So we had to, like, I mean, my city board was like on the other side of the table. But it just means like this card that's supposed to get tucked under this thing doesn't really make a whole lot of sense. I wish it was just a card that was like a mat and you put stuff on it. I don't get the half card thing.
I don't really get it. To me, it kind of feels like maybe it was all play tested online. Like, I don't know. Or like
or it's just like I don't know. Maybe they just
thought it would work.
Yeah,
I don't know. But like, I think we don't have a gamers table, which maybe they assume that people are going to play this game would have a gamers table.
It is a civilization game. It takes up space.
So but I don't really like how it just hangs off of the side of the board. There
was also, this isn't a negative, there was a really interesting, I thought it may be a COVID rule since you're talking about remote stuff. The Illuminati has this little line on it that says, like, because they get the dice, if each player in your group has their own dice, discard the civilization and get a new one. And I thought that's the only shared component. Maybe this is like a germ thing.
I thought that was fascinating.
Kind of interesting.
So those are our thoughts on all like the new pieces coming out. But I want to talk about what are our thoughts on like of this expansion as a whole. So do we like that the fantasy theme has been added to the Tapestry universe?
I would say absolutely. Like, I think that to just do more of the same wouldn't be a service to the game. If this is going to be the final expansion, it makes sense that they're kind of venturing out and doing something very different. Because all the rest of it has been like, oh yeah, that's a toaster, that's a radio. It's like, yeah, cool. It's normal things that got invented. But if we're really being different civilizations, like all sorts of different crazy things could have happened. And so I really like that they're telling a story with this one.
Yeah, I think it's a different take on it. To me, at first, it felt kind of random, which essentially it kind of is random. But it's a fun twist on the game. What I like, when we're discussing about our thoughts on this game, I think this new expansion is for people that love Tapestry. Like, I think our conclusion was, if you love Tapestry, you're going to really like this new expansion, because it adds on to more Tapestry, and it mixes it up. It changes it in a way that still feels like Tapestry, just gives you a little bit harder puzzles to solve and to freshen it up. I wouldn't, though, if you we're on the fence about Tapestry, and we're had lukewarm feelings about it, or just yeah, it's an okay game, and you are looking for this expansion to change that. It's not. It's for the diehard Tapestry fans, and if you have all the expansions, then definitely get this one. If you have just the base game and you are looking to get one expansion, I really recommend Plans and Ploys, which is the first expansion to come from this.
That's the one I would recommend as well.
I think this adds the right stuff to it that really starts to spice it up, and so overall, I mean, are those your thoughts as well? I just kind of took that.
Yeah, I think so. I think basically, like you said, if you've never played a Tapestry expansion before, Planes and Ploys or Arts and Architecture, if you want more civilizations, depends on what you're looking for. But those are going to give you the next step up. It's also going to give you more of the sculptures, more of the landmarks that kind of make it interesting for your puzzle on your board. I do think that this really ups the level of the game. It's going to increase your game time. It's also going to make it a lot more complex. It's also going to potentially increase the gap between your first place and your last place player if they really know what they're doing.
And the time, doesn't it change the time of ending between players?
Yes, because you're going to have your fifth income turn could go longer. So there could be players who are playing a lot longer than other players now, and you will get into that 400 points maybe.
So overall, those are our thoughts on Fantasies and Futures. If you really like Tapestry, then you should definitely complete your collection with this game.
Yeah, it takes it up a level, makes it interesting.
Yeah, I love the new concept of these folders. Very, very interesting. But if you are maybe I like Tapestry, or I don't love it, then I would just get that Plans and Ploys expansion to try that out. Here's your next step. That's what my recommendation is. But thank you guys so much for watching. If you like this video, make sure to like and subscribe and hit that notification bell so you can know whenever we put out a new video. And we'll see you next time.
Happy playing. Oh, heck.